Wait, gotta have your own mug. What's going on, everybody? Troy Rawlings here. Welcome to another exciting episode and timely episode of Meet the. Today, I have the pleasure of having a lot of times you use the word friend and throw it around loosely. This is actually a friend of mine. We've been friends since middle school days. Middle school? Yeah. Back in Baltimore, Maryland. He is still in Baltimore, Maryland. Phenomenal criminal defense, civil rights attorney, entertainment law, and just all around educated brother. Attorney DERRICK HAMLIN. What's going on, brother? How you feel?
Hey, what's up, Troy, man? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, it's I usually don't do data interviews, and I wanted to get you on anyway, but it just so happens if you're watching this, anytime you're watching this, it happens to be the end of May, beginning of June, 2020. You know about COVID, coronavirus, and history books. You'll know about it. This is that time. But also we're in a time of civil unrest because of continual, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back or knee on the neck or whatever you want to call it. There's always something that causes civil unrest. But this time is a bit different. This time it seems to be hitting stronger, and it's almost like because of the time we're in, that everybody's quarantined, stuff like that, we're going to have the highest census numbers probably in 100 years because everybody's home. And but we're also, everything is more polarized because everybody's on their phone, they're at home, and they're watching things. And I don't know if there's been a time since Dr. King that something is being so polarized now where people are like all across all boards, all races. Now you still have your people that are using this to their advantage to do some stupid shit, but it seems more intense now. It seems like human race as a whole, all society is drifting towards this, but I'll get on that. But I want to do a little background on my friend, DERRICK G. HAMLIN. Like I said, we've been friends since middle school days back in Baltimore, but I also went into a trade. I'm a master barber by trade. And I remember I remember in high school, you got this thing, something clicked in you. We were having fun. We were doing our thing. We were studious, but we had our lives. We were kids. We were having the ball, trying to be popular. But then all of a sudden you got hooked on chemistry. Like I remember a time when all of a sudden, like, the teachers were talking about you and you were speaking on chemistry and you started crushing. Like,
I decided being rowdy and running the streets and acting crazy and do my work and become a student leader. I can remember exactly when that was too. Yeah.
Right. Because it was like, it wasn't anything wrong with it, because I think our crew we had a weird crew. Intelligent hula. Intelligent. Right, you know what I'm saying? We were very intelligent. We had to learn how to flip the script. Late 80s, early 90s. I remember my mom and your mom. Oh, man, your mom looked out for all of us. I remember my mom saying you had to be able to flip the script. And right. This is relevant today. You got to be able to, literally, she was like, you got to be able to get a job anywhere and not get your ass kicked in the streets. And I was like, okay. She was like, and my parents could talk and deal with anybody from any culture. And where we lived, at one point in time where we lived, there were no African Americans in those areas. So our parents got money or did whatever. And it's Canfield, Mr. Charlie tell you get off his lawn and you go back in the house, he's not going to call the police. Right. He's going to, so what was the shift? I remember it happening. It was gradual, but you just seemed to excel to the next level. What was it about chemistry or academics that really attracted your attention? What was it about that?
In 10th and 11th grade, I went to Upward Bound. I spent the whole summer learning all the stuff I would need to know for the next year, but really the first 2 semesters. So basically, I completely aced my first 2 semesters. But more importantly, in that summer program, they taught me basically what you needed to do and the type of grades and SAT scores you needed to get into college. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing any of this. I guess I better start doing this. And also just being around positive people that were moving in the direction I wanted to go made it a lot easier to move in that direction. And you probably remember when I first moved to the neighborhood, I was the bad kid. I was like, come on, man, let's go out and breaking cars. You remember I used to be horrible.
Yes.
And eventually,
but it was cool. It was you weren't the bad kid that no one wanted to be around. You had a cool personality. So it was like, hey, if Derrick's doing it, let's roll. It's cool. Like we'll be all right. So you went to Upward Bound, and I hope people are letting, I'll try to make sure we don't do terrible language, so you can let your kids. I want some people to let their kids hear this. A summer program. Now, mind you, we were, like they said, we run the streets, breaking into cars, jumping over the fence to get to the swim club. We were like
all the time
swimming every. That was the greatest thing in the world. He was like, we damn sure don't have enough money to get in here every day, but we'll get in here. And after a while, I think they were just like, just let them swim. But so you go to Upward Bound, you get in a different atmosphere. You realize that, hold up, I want to go to college. And these people are serious about what they're doing. What do I have to do? And they showed you the formula, and you started applying it and started crushing. So you go to Morgan State, and you decide to major in chemistry. Was chemistry your major?
Yep. I'm a chemist too. Yep. I am a science.
So that was you got your bachelor's and your master's in chemistry, right?
That's correct.
So, and let me tell you why I know this. So I know about the bachelor's, but then he started going, did you go to Hopkins?
Yep.
He went to Hopkins to get his I'm working in the barbershop by this time. He's coming in getting a haircut. We got the hottest barbershop in town, Marvelous Cut. Shout out to Marvelous Marvin. He's still cutting. But he's my mentor with the master barber. But we had the hustlers and the politicians. Well, and the cops. And we had everybody coming into Marvelous Cuts. And educated, great conversation. It's the classic barbershop. And I remember you coming in and saying, man, cut me up. I'm going for my master's. I got to go in front of these people and this, that, and other. What should I wear? I was like, what are they going to be wearing? And I was cutting your hair and I was like, all right, cool. So cut 2 years later, we run into each other. I'm downtown Baltimore. All this is relevant, folks. Downtown Baltimore. And I think we're at XS on Charles. Okay. And I'm there with, I think, some sister. We eating. We have a beautiful spot. It was a beautiful day. I see Derrick in there with his Dwayne Wayne leather satchel, with the hat on backwards. Studying like, yeah, man, I'm just sitting. I was like, what's up, Dave? Oh, yeah, man, I'm over. He got a table to himself by the window. It's classic scene in any Spike Lee, intelligent, any 90s movie where we look wonderful. This was it. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I'm studying to pass the bar.
Yep.
Automatically, because he was working at the patent office in Virginia. I remember this stuff to a T because it was something that helped. It changed my mindset and some other things I was going through. And I was like, oh, patent office. So you're going for patent law? You were like, no, I want to open my own legal office. I want to do defense law. And I was like, that whole time, I don't even remember what the rest of the meeting was like. I was like, wait, you got your master's in chemistry. I mean, you got your bachelor's and your master's in chemistry. You're working in the patent office in Virginia, probably making pretty good money. And now you want to open your law office downtown in Baltimore? Like, come back to Baltimore to do defense law? And I was like, why? He was like, I just want to. That was, what was your motivation to come back to Baltimore and open a criminal defense and civil rights, a law office downtown Baltimore? And did it, mind you. Like, did it?
Right. Well, like we said earlier, I used to get in trouble. And I noticed very quickly, like, if you didn't have money or quality representation, you were going to get screwed. And I found that incredibly unfair. You know, I'm poor and I'm Black, so I get treated differently. You know what I mean? So my reason for coming back to Baltimore is that was my base. That was where my support system was, my family was, my friends were, and I knew if I was going to start a law firm, I wanted to have all those things near me. Additionally, I knew that police were mistreating people, and seems like the trend has not stopped yet. But you know, we're working on it.
We're talking about, and people, just to give you a time capsule, how much time we're talking about. We're talking about about 20. We're talking about this meeting when Derrick and I ran back into each other was like 97, if I'm not mistaken. 97, 98.
2000. Wait, which one? You mean when I was getting my master's?
When you were going for the bar?
No, the bar was 2004. In 97,
okay.
98.
So when
that's
did,
when
well, actually, I'm sorry. When did you go into law school?
I went in 2000 and I graduated in 04. So it was 04.
So yeah, we ran into each other, and well, you graduated in 04. Okay, so that was 16 years ago. What year did you open your law office?
The following year, 05.
Right.
Soon as I got sworn in, within 3 months, I did my first case.
And he opened a law office right on Charles Street, on Calvert Street.
On Calvert, yeah.
It was Calvert?
It was on Calvert and Fayette, and now I'm on Lexington and Fayette. I mean, Lexington and Calvert.
Which made it so crazy is I end up with the Passat brothers opening a jazz club right down the street.
Right down the street.
Off 347 North Calvert. And Derrick became one of our first sponsors. Crazy. And to cut till now, and to see the unrest and everything that's going on. Let's talk about this George Floyd, brother's name, case. As an attorney, as a lawyer, when you first saw the video, what did you see? What did you notice outside of the very thing that made you want to get into law in the first place? But what did you notice what did you see? What did you notice? What did you see that was obviously something's not right here?
Let me start by saying I've sued over probably close to 100 cops, just dozens of police officers for police brutality, police misconduct. I've even handled wrongful death cases. But the thing that stood out immediately is this is clearly excessive force. And excessive force is if you use more force necessary than to effectuate the arrest, then it's excessive, right? This man was lying on his stomach in handcuffs with 3 officers on him. Now, I had a case where I had a client on the ground in handcuffs right on Northern Parkway where we used to hang out at the lot. And the officer put his knee in my client's back. And he just rested his knee on there, kind of like the officers were doing. And the jury said that was excessive. He was not resisting arrest. He was lying on his stomach in handcuffs, cooperative. That knee on his back got him thousands of dollars. It was excessive to basically the only reason for putting your knee on a person's back when they're lying on the ground in handcuffs, being cooperative, is to put them in pain. And my client was paid for that pain that they put him in. Now, another thing is, I recently did a video where I broke down what happened, and I didn't even use the law. I used the Minneapolis Police Department's policies and procedures. And in their procedures, the laws just throughout it, because you can't be a police officer without basically following the law. So one of the first things they say in their use of force rules or policy is that basically you have to follow the Fourth Amendment. And that essentially says that you cannot use unreasonable force. So you'll keep hearing reasonable, unreasonable, reasonable, unreasonable, because that standard is put forth not only in their policies, but by the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. This is constitutional law that you can't do what you did. You know what I mean? So the next thing that bothered me is, well, yeah, I'll leave that there. I'll leave that there.
It's no, I wanted to get wide open because we're at a time of unrest, and we're going to post this all over social media. We're going to post it on YouTube. We're going to post it all over the place, and I'm going to put the link in my bio to stay there, because here's the sad part, and this is even as African American. I have some friends here in Los Angeles, and several, my friend Jake and some other people that I talk to, Caucasian brothers or brothers of other descents, and I talk about when I was coming up, maybe 78, 79. I never forget the conversation. So I was 4 or 5, something like that. And my mother was like, if you're out here doing something crazy, and she had went through enough stuff with my brother, probably like your mom went through with your older brother. She went through enough stuff where I came along. She was like, just don't die going out, but she was like, if you get locked up and you did something wrong, you'll be staying there.
Right.
She said, but if you didn't do anything wrong, if police come and you're right and you didn't do anything wrong, be respectful, use the manners I taught you, shut up, and get somewhere I can get to you. I never forgot that. I told my daughter's 8, and some people, I mean, I have Caucasian friends that shiver when I tell them that story. It was like, the fact that you had to tell your child. I was like, yeah, but we're not far removed. Most people don't realize, we say 400 years a lot, and it seems like a lot. If my grandfather died at 92, and I want to give people a dispensation of time. My grandfather died at 92. Like, he goes back 100 years. Mm. His father, if he lived, well, the guy that raised him, if he lived that long, that could be another almost 200 years. His father's grandfather was probably a slave. People don't realize how that's not that far.
We're not far removed from slavery at all. I say that all the time.
Right. People don't realize that if people are benefiting off, and we always use a Rockefeller family because they're the richest family, but if the majority of Rockefeller's money came after the Civil War, and we still talk about Rockefeller and how his family is still benefiting from that, of course, that's old money. But there are other families we can trace back that they start talking about their great. Soon as you get to that next great, either if he wasn't a plantation owner, right. You know what I'm saying? So we're not that far removed. And the civil rights movement, my brother was born in 65. So, you know what I'm saying? So we're not that far removed. We know about the 13th Amendment. For those that don't know about the 13th Amendment, we'll touch on that a little bit because I want to get into something else. So here's my biggest question. And this is from the video I saw. I don't know if you saw the other video from the clothing store or whatever next door, where they walked him back to the wall and sat him on the ground.
Right.
Then I saw another video where he was in the police car. Because I was asking, I was like, why didn't they just put him in the car? When you get arrested, and what is the spectacle? What is it? And that's when you become, okay, these are people are trying to make a point. They want to make a spectacle. They must want to embarrass somebody. Because why not put him in the car? He's obviously bigger than all of you guys. Why not just put him in the car? Because he didn't look like he was resisting in any of the videos I saw. I just don't see what happened. How did they take him back out? I don't know. What is it? Something happened?
I didn't see him in a police car at all. I saw him take him out of his vehicle, immediately put him in handcuffs. At that point, his handcuffs are behind his back. The officer's holding his arm. There are a couple of officers there. There's absolutely no reason to use any force. It's not like he ever tried to run.
And there's a video where they sat him on the ground against the store.
And he's talking to him. He's cooperative. And even though we can't hear it, we know that he's answering questions because when he says something to the officer, you see the officer writing it down on his pad. Right. You know what I mean? And you can also tell he's not in the best condition. So by the way he sat down, by the way they picked him up, by the way he kind of, it's not really a limp, but it's a borderline shuffle as if he's in pain or whatever when they're walking him across the street. You can see all of it. And it looks like he fell face forward. I'm not going to say they pushed him when he fell next to the police car, but he's not going to fall. He's not going to make himself fall face forward with his hands behind his back where he could really be injured. So either he fell because he wasn't that stable, or, you know, like I said, I'm not going to say they pushed him, but I think he probably fell because as he's getting out the car, there's another time when he first gets out the car and he has the handcuffs behind his back, he almost falls down and they have to help him up. When they pick him up off the wall, when they're talking to him, they have to help him up. So this man probably isn't in the best condition to begin with.
And that's one of the things they said they did the autopsy and they're trying to come back with he had some pre-existing things. All that aside, well, you just said it. You said your client was on the ground. The officer put his knee on his back, and the jury instantly said no.
Yes.
And so he has his knee on the. Is there ever a time? Because, like you said, and it was one cop at that point in time. When you see it, it's one cop with his knee on his neck, and the guy's head is to the side, and his eyes seemingly close open. Like you said, he looks like he's coming in and out of consciousness for 8 minutes.
All right, let me talk about just that in general. In many jurisdictions, chokeholds are completely outlawed. They're illegal because you can kill a person, right?
Right.
In Minneapolis, they still allow chokeholds, right? So that in itself says enough, right? And not only do they allow chokeholds, but in their policy, they list the chokehold as deadly force. It's just as lethal as your gun. It's considered deadly force. Now, some people will argue this isn't a chokehold because they're not applying pressure directly to his trachea. But in their policy, they also have what they call neck restraints, all right? And neck restraints is more like what this would probably be. And, you know, people always ask, I keep hearing people saying, that's illegal, they're not even supposed to do that. Well, I haven't found in their policy where they can't do it. In fact, in their policy, it says for neck restraints, you can use your leg on a person's neck, which was crazy to me. That sounds outrageous. And, you know, but regardless, it clearly states, the policy is clear. It says you are absolutely not allowed to use a neck restraint on someone who is passively resisting, right? And by passive resistance, we mean he's not being aggressive, he's not fighting, he's not pulling away. All he's doing is maybe talking trash. And if you want to argue this is passive resistance, I say, you telling somebody that they're killing you is not passive resistance. You know what I mean? You're allowed to say, you are killing me, you are hurting me, I can't breathe. That's not passive resistance. But even if it was, their policy says you cannot use a chokehold or a neck restraint for passive resistance. That blew my mind to see, you know, their rules. They make it clear that it's not allowed because they know how dangerous it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in any other scenario, well, I want to jump for a second.
Wait, one more thing about that. They talk about two different types of neck restraints. One of them is a continuous neck restraint where you're continuously applying pressure, right? With your leg or knee or whatever, like the officer was. In continuous neck restraints, they have to be done with moderate to light pressure, right? Moderate to light pressure. And I don't think anybody is going to argue that the weight of a man's body is moderate to light pressure. When you look at the video, you can see how smashed in his neck is. It's outrageous. It's so unreasonable. It's so excessive. You know, I'm getting upset talking about it. We can move on.
And supposedly the charge is forgery. Here's the sad thing about, and I have to be transparent on my own case because of the way we came up, because of what, and sadly because of what's been put in our minds. A lot of times we're looking for what the person did. And man, maybe if they hadn't have done that, but it kept happening. You know, I remember years ago when it starts like, oh man, well, this person was lipping off, or this person was doing this, or they know better than this, and this and that. Oh well, the little boy with the gun in the park is it? And we keep
Right.
trying to make excuses, and then all of a sudden he's like, no, 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 no. It's like the movie A Time to Kill. We have to put people in a position. I think that's just what happened with George Floyd because of the time we're in, because of COVID, because of the quarantine. Everybody's home, their phones are their TV, and this
Right.
comes across. And we just because we just heard about Ahmaud, and they were like,
Right.
hey, this guy was jogging. They're still trying to find pieces, and hey, what happened? Then this young lady, wait, she's an EMT, and then George. And not
Right.
only with that, and shout out to Sean King and the other, civil rights activists of our time, and yourself included. But George also had a friend, Steven Jackson, who they called him twins. They were in the NBA, so he was the one that woke up and was like, "This is crazy," and for forgery.
Right. So that when people say that, they're essentially saying that, oh, you commit a petty crime, a misdemeanor, you sell cigarettes, you have a forged whatever dollar bill, whatever it was, you deserve to die. That's what they're saying. You can't justify a murder based on that crime. That crime is not punishable by death, and that's essentially what happened. But the crazy part about it is when the bystanders come around and they're like, "You're killing him. Please stop. Please check his pulse." One of the officers says, "You shouldn't do drugs." First off, he's not being arrested for drugs, and more importantly, you're again saying that if you do drugs, we're going to kill you. You deserve to be treated like this if you do drugs. It's ridiculous.
That's another piece I wanna touch on. There are four officers. One was arrested, and what I just heard, he just got let out on bail. Because I didn't even know there was a third-degree murder, which I guess would be equivalent to manslaughter.
No, they have a manslaughter charge. He's charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Now, I'm not an expert on Minnesota law because I practice in Maryland and DC, but it would be the equivalent of what we call depraved heart murder, where you're doing something that's so reckless, even though you didn't intend for it to happen. You knew that from your behavior, what you're doing was so dangerous, and you continue and you did it anyway, that it could result in a murder. It would be the equivalent of throwing a bowling ball off of the top of a highway and smashing a car, and then they're saying, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to kill anybody. What you did was so reckless and depraved. You should have known." You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a dangerous act, and it resulted in somebody that. So the four officers that are around, I just heard, and this number could be off. They said 80% of the women in prison now, something like 80% of the women in prison for like serious crimes, weren't necessarily the one who committed the crime. They were there when it happened.
Right. Accessories.
So,
yep.
accessories. Right, and we know that. We know, our parents our parents may not have did everything right. But when they said, look, you are who you hang around. You keep hanging around those folks. If they get locked up, you're going to get locked up.
Right.
So these officers are around. Not only that, somebody broke down another part of the video, which I didn't notice before, that when the ambulance came, that was not an ambulance because the people that lifted him off the ground were in cop uniforms with vests on. And they flipped over his limp, obviously dead body, throw it on a gurney. No one tested for anything. No one put a mask on him. No one did anything. Put him on that thing and threw him in the back of the truck. Huh?
I said no CPR.
No CPR, nothing.
Regarding that too, how you have to observe the person and get the medical treatment if you use one of these neck restraints or chokeholds. There's a whole policy right after that section that says that you have to get them help. You have to monitor them and make sure that they're okay.
At one point in time, I thought it was a law that said even if the person's cuffs are too tight around their wrist and they're causing injury to them, you have to monitor that.
That can be a form of excessive force as well, putting on handcuffs too tight. And I've had cases where my clients had bruises on their arms for several days afterwards, and the jury paid me for that. But another thing too, you see in the video, when they pick him up off the ground and he's against the wall and they're turning him and they're holding him by his cuffs, you see his face just grimace like he's in immense pain. So I can't wait to hear what the body cam says. You know, you saw the body cam where they blacked out everything. The whole body cam, big blocks, just big black blocks blocking out everything because they're trying to hide the truth. There's one section of the body cam where it skips like 10 seconds. And it's crucial 10 seconds where something really important appears to be going on. But that's a whole nother thing. But let me talk about real quick why all these officers need to go to jail. Like you said, you are who you're with. You talked about how women go to jail. Most of the women in jail are in jail for crimes they didn't commit. I know for the theory, it's called felony murder, where if you commit a felony and someone dies, then you go to jail. In most of those cases, the women involved are with their boyfriends. Their boyfriend kills somebody. They're with them during the felony, and they go to jail for life, right? Now, imagine this scenario, this exact same scenario if we weren't police officers. If it was you, me, and someone else, right?
Right.
First off, if I hold somebody down while you strangle them, people have like, if you word it that way, if I choke a person to death while you're holding them, everybody's like, oh, clearly he's a co-conspirator, he's an accessory, he's aiding and abetting. It's clear. You know what I mean? So those three officers, sure, they're holding this man down in handcuffs with their weight on his body while this officer basically puts the weight of his body on his neck, right? But some people say, why should the last officer be charged with murder as well? Well, you see him there, and you see the crowd gather around, and they're like, stop, please, check his pulse. And this officer is telling them to stay back. He's condoning the officer's behavior. He's supporting it. The definition, in the definition of conspiracy, it's if you're aiding the person in the crime, if you're encouraging the crime, if you're supporting the crime. And that's exactly what this officer was doing. When people would try to approach, he would tell them to back up. When they said, look, when they were trying to help, he was like, absolutely not. And you knew that he supported it. And that was the actual officer who said, you shouldn't do drugs. Again, this was not a drug case. There was nothing about drugs in this case. And for that officer to say that, oh, this black man is on the ground, he must have done drugs. You know what I mean? It's kind of.
I'm going to interject. I'm going to interject a couple things right here that people may not know. And I'm just gathering this by some of the pictures I see with George Floyd next to other people. Stephen Jackson said they called him in it. Stephen Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, maybe about 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd, I saw him in some pictures with a gathering with a bunch of people in a picture, and he was holding a Bible. And he's standing in the back. He's at least a foot taller than everybody in the picture. So I'm thinking George Floyd, and when I saw them walking him over, the cops are smaller than him. He has a tank top on, and he has a nice build. Like he might have played ball. He looks strong, but he's also tall. He looks to be 6'5", maybe, he looks to be about 6'5". And I'm not, I don't know. But I'm looking at the picture, and I saw a picture with him and Steve Jackson, and I saw a picture with him with some other people. He looks to be about 6'5". I'm 6'2", you're about 6'2 and a half, 6'3", 6. We're so this guy is bigger than us. And I've had handcuffs on before as an adult and sat in the back of a car, and the cops were like, "We're sorry, sir, we did it," because it was definitely no threat. and they were like, "We're sorry, we know this, that, and other." For handcuffs to be on him, there's just a lot of sketchy things. And I know I really wanted to talk to you, and of course we have some other attorneys we'll be talking to, but I definitely wanted to talk to you because of where we're from and what we've seen and what you've seen. And I know you've won, like I said, many cases for people, and you never say your people were doing anything wrong, but they were, by the time they got to the point of being arrested, that due process wasn't carried out correctly. The
Right.
fact that the only reason I could think of them taking him out that car was because when they put him in the car, they were putting him in wrong. It looked like, you'll see it. They just came out the other day. There's a video of them looking like they're punching him in the car or something. And whatever I think he was either in pain or whatever was going on, or they tried to slide this 6'5" person into the car with these handcuffs on wrong, and he's in wrong and he's screaming or whatever, and they're trying to push and pull. That's the only reason I think they could have took him out that car. Because other than that,
I didn't see them put him in the car or take him out. I'm not sure.
There's a and like I said, I could be wrong. This looks like it's all the same video, because I was like, all I kept asking is, why didn't they put him in? And that would make sense of why he was next to and that close to the police car without going in. It seemed like, so I don't know. And then someone else came and said these two guys actually had worked together. I guess, I don't know if he was doing some security at a bar, and they knew each other. So there's, and the officer, Chauvin, whatever it is, he has a rap sheet. He has like a police rap sheet of stuff that he's continuously done.
The police unions are so strong. It's so difficult to get police officers fired. I mean, I've had officers do horrible, horrible things in my cases. And this is funny. You said I don't really say what my clients do wrong. I will say I had a client who basically, he wasn't selling weed, but he had a whole bunch of weed on him. And when the police chased him, he was throwing his weed everywhere, right? And when the police caught him, they beat him down, right? Again, well, in the streets, I'll say, there's an unwritten rule. If you make the police chase after you, they're going to beat you up.
Right.
You're gonna get in this case, my client was dead wrong. He shouldn't have had weed on him. He probably shouldn't have run. But regardless, the thing that made me take this case, I wouldn't have taken the case if it hadn't been for the fact that one of the police officers rubbed dog feces all over him. Right. So yeah, I do take. It's rare that I have a client who, that I'll take their case when they're doing something extremely horrible. But come on, man. And that officer continued to work. They paid us, but he didn't lose his job because the police union is so strong.
Right. And the fraternal order of police, and they stick by their own. And
the fact that he had so many complaints against him and none of them were sustained, they call it fact sustained. None of them were sustained. All of them were dismissed. Again, that's why we have so many horrible officers. In fact, in Baltimore, we have a do not call list. And it's all the horrible officers they do not want to call to the stand, right? Why are they still working for the department, right? It's ridiculous. But let me just go back. Let me backtrack for a second. Another thing about their policies and procedures is that all the officers have what's called a duty to intervene. So can't just sit there and watch another officer kill somebody. You can't just sit there and watch an officer kneel on somebody's neck for 9 minutes while he's saying, I can't breathe, I feel like I'm going to die. He's calling for his mom, who has already passed away. It's crazy that they let that happen. And that's another reason they should be prosecuted.
Yes.
The rest of the main officer is not enough. All of them need to be arrested.
Now, the legal, you work well within the legal system. One thing that I loved about not just Barack Obama, but his wife, Michelle, after they came out of office, even before, but definitely after they came out of office, she was adamant in telling people, hey, people, there are elections going on all the time. Because most people, even if they do vote, African Americans especially, they may just vote every 4 years for a president. They don't vote for what's going on in the judicial, legislative,
judges,
And from what you've seen, and we're in a great time. I know they have they're doing Maryland. They're doing the mail-in votes right now for Maryland.
Right.
I was so enraged. I had to pray and figure out what to post. You know, we have a lot of influence on posting stuff. We can scale it negative. We can do whatever. But I'm thinking, I'm like, what has to change? But I'm like, well, if we're going to be really dangerous, the most dangerous thing, obviously, that we could do are the things that were illegal for years. It was illegal for us to read. It was illegal for us to vote. So my thing, if we're going to be dangerous, pick up some books, do a Derrick G. Hamlin 101 and start studying some things, because I bet if firing a cop or getting a cop arrested got rid of his pension, things would change. Because you got certain things where cops can, I think cops can, I don't know if this is right or not, or they can even commit suicide. And I was watching the thing, and this is not a cop, but he definitely had political immunity. I was watching the thing on Jeffrey Epstein, and 2 days before he committed suicide, he transferred his wealth. I call it wealth because he transferred $577 million to his brother. In his name. It's in the documentary. In his name, the brother name. And this is how gangster that was. Because he had already lost the case and went to jail, he knew what was coming next was a civil suit.
Right.
And of course, he had more than enough money to at least, if it was 40 something or 50, at least 50 of them women could have got $1 million, $10 million a piece. He transferred everything over to his brother and did it in such a way that we still haven't heard anything. It may come later on. They may go after, I don't know how they're going to do it. But so that was knowing the law and him having the certain lawyers and key people and things like that.
The part is that happened to me. I sued a club owner. I got an $8.6 million verdict. He put everything in everybody else's name and blew his brains out. In Maryland, that happened here. It's crazy, man.
What was the lawsuit for?
Wrongful death. Someone got murdered in this club, and they did a horrible. It was horrible. It was just horrible.
So and something like that happens, so nothing takes. Well, the difference is in this situation, God willing, the family gets everything they can get because the police department obviously ain't going nowhere. And if you have if somebody puts something in your food at McDonald's, you're trying to own that McDonald's. So, but right now is the time of unrest. We can go deeper and deeper into the law. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving us perspective so people understand what's wrong. So we know these cats were wrong, and now it's wait to see. But putting people in position, let's talk about the voting piece. What's in your opinion, people who don't know, okay, I don't know what to go about. Where can I look? Because supposedly everybody's record on voting and what they believe in is public information.
All right, let me go back. I want to talk about judges and state's attorneys.
Okay.
And it's crazy because, all right, in Maryland, we have a pretty decent system for picking judges. All the bar organizations, it's probably about a dozen bar organizations, Black bar, Asian bar, Hispanic bar, gay bar, all the different bar organizations interview these people. And then the governor picks one of the people who makes the list. Of course, he can completely ignore our recommendations and pick whoever he wants, which occasionally happens. But it's rare that if everybody says you're a trash lawyer that you become a judge. You know what I mean? It becomes very difficult for you. But the problem is some of these judges get on the bench, and they might bench, and a lot of them, most of our judges are former prosecutors or AGs. And some of them still think like prosecutors. Some of them still, are best friends, are married to cops, and that comes through in the way they roll. You know what I mean? And I've had some crazy situations. I actually had a former cop who is a judge now. I litigated a police brutality case in front of him, and he did not disclose that. I was like, how are you not going to tell me that? Like, it's crazy. So the case came back on appeal, and of course we won. But I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
What's
The dirty
appeal?
appeal.
Oh, appeal. Okay.
Yeah, we filed an appeal because we were like, Judge, I clearly won this case, and you stole a case from us. And the Court of Appeals was like, yeah, give him his money. That was some bull crap, So it's crazy. But okay, so and sometimes we have, like, right now we have a judge. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's garbage. He doesn't know the law. He's absolutely horrible, and he's not in Baltimore City. I'll say that. And I hope that he loses his election because he's terrible. And if we don't go out and vote, part of it too is knowing who to vote for.
Right.
Because in Maryland, we have a system where if they went through that process and all the bars interviewed them, then, they're going to say, vote for all the sitting judges. That's what they call it, the sitting judges, the judges that are in place right now. And normally that's a good thing, but it's probably like 1 out of every 10 judges, either they don't need to be a judge anymore because they were good and now they're horrible, or they should have never been a judge. But, part of that is finding out what these judges were rated. And you can find out, to some extent, what the bar organizations think of them, all that's really important. For me, judges is a big issue. State's attorneys, some of them, I guess state's attorney for me, I think, is more of a political office. They get money for the office. You know what I mean? It's rare that they litigate cases, I mean, the state's attorney, some of them come in with these ridiculous policies, and those guys need to go. I remember at one point, Baltimore County had a state's attorney that said, anybody eligible for the death penalty, we're going to ask for it. We don't have the death penalty anymore. But the crazy part about that is, what if the person's mentally handicapped? What if it's a child? What if it's other circumstances that suggest that this person should not, receive the death penalty, and they go for it anyway. So some prosecutors do need to go, but you really got to do your homework, and they have websites that break down the judges. Your newspaper is probably going to break down, everybody in a race and lists, who supports them, who doesn't, why they're good, why they're bad,
Right. Okay. All right. So, like I said, we're talking to attorney Derrick G. Hamlin. I know if you're this far and you've been with us the whole time. Key information. We're gonna talk to attorney Hamlin a lot more. We're not getting out of here just yet, but we definitely know why all 4 officers should be arrested. There was something else. The civil unrest. What's going on now? And I have to mention this because I never noticed this before. There were a couple things that recently came up. There were some people in the crowd. Someone mentioned that, all right, we got people in the crowd with white armbands on. They were supposedly police officers. And there were different pictures where you see people dressed like regular people and they're with the crowd marching, but they have these white armbands on. Someone said, I just want y'all to know these are officers. So watch what you're doing because they're there. Then There were people, there was a lady doing a video. She was like, I just want y'all to see this. And we know it's all races looting and doing stuff. But there were specifically these 2, they look Caucasian, maybe Asian ladies, slim build, almost fit build, fully black outfit. When your outfit looks too good for the protest, I'm suspect anyway. When you got the Lululemon leotard on with the black ninja outfit, black shades, black all, I'm like, you've done that a little too well. And they were spray painting buildings and putting slurs on it. 2 ladies, one look Asian, one look Caucasian. And the black lady said, I just want y'all to see this. And she was like, why are you videotaping? We're upset. Did you see that one?
Yeah, it was like, not us, man. We want y'all to know it's not us.
Right, and people running in stores.
Nothing but white people, and it'll be like 12 white people in a picture just looting. It's not us.
Right,
That's not our movement.
Because,
that's not
because even now, there's no reason, there's no reason to loot. Well, The difficult thing now is you're giving people a chance who were suffering because of COVID and quarantine to get out and act crazy. So it is an interesting time. How do you feel when you see this? How do you feel when you see the burning, the looting? I mean, Dr. King said something about when you see riots, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but he said I'd be doing you a disservice. I'd be misleading you if I talked about people rioting and I didn't act like I didn't know why. Riots are the voice of those who feel like they're unheard. And so I can't deal with one and not deal with the core, you know. So how do you feel about when you see this? Because they're taking
a lot of people.
You were in Baltimore during the Freddie Gray riots.
Absolutely. I marched. I was out there. I represented a lot of the people that were charged with rioting. I think I actually did the first case. And that was a whole nother mess. But yeah, so in terms of the rioting and looting, I absolutely positively do not condone the burning and the looting. I caught a little bit of backlash because in one of my videos, I talked about how I don't condone it, but I wasn't mad to see that police car smashed up. You know what I mean? Because that was actually targeted at the people it should have been targeted at. Target didn't do anything to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
All the stores in your neighborhood that may be Black owned or that are small businesses that will never come back to your neighborhood because of this, they didn't do anything to you. But one thing that really makes me upset is to see all these politicians, all these police chiefs coming out and they're saying, this absolutely has to stop. But they're talking about the looting, not the death of Black people. They're talking about the burning of buildings and not the death of Black people. You know what I mean? It's just crazy that this has to stop. Talking about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, but not about the killing of unarmed Blacks. This has to stop too. And until you start spreading that message, we can't hear you.
And it's so ironic. Well, I don't. After a while, you live a little longer. It was like nothing's by coincidence. But the unrest and the craziness that went down over this man taking a peaceful knee, and what's happening from this officer taking a deadly knee, and it's like these young men and women are becoming modern day martyrs, and the very thing that I don't know where their mind is. I don't know if he's just saying there's one less, one less N-word, one less Black person we got work, one less person. They'll know next time. No, there will be no next time. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a next time this time. So, and history has repeated itself, but it's weird. I was talking to Dr. Steve Perry, educator, and I was like, yeah, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. There's certain things that are going great, and there's certain things and this was before all this stuff is just, coming forth. So what all could you say to people? What all would you say to people before we get out of here? I know we could talk for a couple hours on these factors, but before we get out of here, for those that don't,
I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was about to say, for those that don't know what to do, what their rights are outside of voting, we definitely want to give people as much information about voting and studying where they can go. I told some people to go to USA.gov and just read and make sure you're registered and make sure you know when an election's coming up. I guess a lot of places are doing mail-in because of the COVID and the quarantine situation. And but what else can people do? Like I said, I mentioned Sean King, and he has a lot of information out where you can call and you're putting pressure on. And we've seen some prosecuting go on, but what can people do? They're home, they're scared, especially the mothers and fathers are scared of their children. But what can they do? What would you suggest people do who don't know what to do with this rage and this fear?
Right. Let me just say, in terms of dealing with the police in general, I do Know Your Rights seminars all the time, and I have so many video blogs on how to interact with the police. So many. If you just Google my name, if you just search my name on YouTube, so many videos will come up about how to protect your rights. But one thing I want everybody to know and remember right now is COVID is still here. And this is the absolute worst time to get locked up. And all my clients who were incarcerated, I got out probably at least 60 to 70% of my clients. That 30% that they did not let out is because they're charged with violent crimes, right? Rioting is considered a violent crime. And the last place you want to be is locked up with COVID inside the jail, where they're not going to treat you properly. They're not going to give you the protective equipment you need to keep from getting it. And you're in close quarters, so the odds of you getting it are a whole lot greater. So I'm just going to say, I don't want to see anybody get arrested. So make sure that you peacefully protest. I tell people too, I've seen so many people get locked up because in Maryland, you know, I can win all the charges except for riot charges. Because the riot charge essentially it's a common law charge that basically says the police, if you're in the middle of a riot, maybe you didn't do anything. And we appreciate that. We understand that you didn't do anything, but you're getting charged with this because we can't expect the police to separate the rioters from the people who are not rioting, the looters from the people who are just there to tape it on their phone or see what's going on. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, I mean, I still want everybody to stay home. And if you're gonna protest, once they start throwing gas canisters, tear gas, once they start kicking down barricades, I need you to move back away from the front lines. I understand, you know, for me, I learned that, you know, one time I was out there the Baltimore unrest, during Baltimore unrest, and I came pretty close to not even getting, you know, arrested, but there were rocks flying past my head. I was like, oh no, this ain't my fight is in a courtroom. And like I said, I represented so many people charged with the rioting charges and assaults and, you know, but like I said, you know, I just want everybody to be safe. If you're dealing with the police, don't give them a reason to kill you. I have a video blog that says, it's called 10 Easy Ways to Get Killed by the Police, right? And I go through all the things that will make a cop shoot you. And in the end, it says, in the event that you don't want to get killed by the police, all you have to do is not do any of these things. You know what I mean? And some of them are things that you think you have the right to do, but even if you have the right to do it, that doesn't mean they're not going to kill you. You know what I mean? So like I said, check out that blog. Search my name on YouTube, because there's so much information that I'd love to share with you that I don't have time to. So again, like I said, you know, just be safe in your interactions with police. You know, if you can avoid them, move away from them, you know. And I know my warriors are going to want to be on the front lines. They're going to want to, you know, if you know you can't control your anger, you definitely don't need to be out there. You know what I mean? Find another way to protest. You know what I mean? I do video blogs. I do, you know, I donate to organizations that are going to help move us forward. You know, I'll leave it right
there. No, if you're out there and you like Attorney DERRICK HAMLIN said, if you're out there and you're a whoever you are, if you get in touch with me and you say, hey, I just have something to say, I just want to vent, I'll give you the opportunity to vent. We'll put it out. You can blast it to your friends and family. You can put it on your social media. If we just got to do a vent, if we got to go live and vent, whatever we got to do. But you made so many key points. I'm so glad we took time to do this right now. Like I said, I have a close friend of mine, and her daughter's a close friend of mine. And she's my sister, like my sister. And she literally, I called her, hey, how's everything going? I've been better. You know, when a professional Black woman calls her mom and says, hey, here's my bank account, here's my lawyer's information. You know, I couldn't imagine the fear. I couldn't imagine my daughter in her 20s, 30s, whatever, calling me and say, hey, Dad, look, I'm tired of all this. Here's my bank account. Here's my lawyer's information. And like you said, it's during the time of COVID. Be mindful, people. because the passion and the anger gets so built up. We gotta let it out somehow. So thank you. How else can everybody get in touch with you? Give them all your information before we get out of here.
You can follow me at, well, first off, my website is hamlinlegal.com, HAMLINLEGAL.com. DG Hamlin on most social media, or Derrick G. Hamlin on Facebook or Instagram. And like I said, I post a lot of blogs about knowing your rights, how to protect your rights, how to keep from getting killed by the police.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, brother. We're gonna post this immediately. And anything else you want to talk about, you always have. We can I'm gonna mark this as part 1, so they know it's many more parts coming. Because even on the other side of this, people are gonna need some advice and consulting, and I know you're available for consultations as well.
Right. Appreciate
you, man.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.